The cable news networks went wall to wall when a car exploded on a bridge on the New York side of Niagara Falls, and the speculation began.
The threat environment is, to quote FBI Director Wray, is high. We know it because of international terrorism and what's going on in the Middle East, and also how domestic terror groups have been activated or
Juliet,
animated.
please stand tied to something more on the local side, or was this an intentional act? And if it was an intentional act, what is the motive? What is behind this? And is it in fact terrorism? It's just too soon to say.
Originally, police sources who were on the ground and saw the impact of this crash thought this was a terrorist attack, I'm told.
Obviously, not confirmed whether or not this was indeed a radical Islamic terrorist attack. Who is behind this?
Robbie Suave, New York Governor Kathy Hochul confirmed that there was no terrorism and there was no explosives in that car. Is this the classic example of a media rush to judgment?
Classic is precisely the right word. This happens all the time. You know, it's always a good idea to just stop and pause and wait. And I understand in our 24-hour, news cycle, there's pressure to give viewers kind of sensational stories and to, let your imagination run wild. But it's always a good idea just to wait because, yes, in this case, it now seems overwhelmingly the case that it was a sort of freak accident, or it might have involved human errors being made, but was not a planned terrorist attack, certainly. And it's such a dangerous time right now, and it is wrong to scare people and to worry people. So please, media, journalists, just hold on. Just wait a couple hours. We'll know. Sit back. Don't do this kind of thing.
Laura, classic media temptation, exploded car, 2 people dead, kind of feels like it could be terrorism. Also, police sources tell Fox that it was terrorism. That gets reported, and then, of course, everybody walks it back when the truth comes out. Ted Cruz said it was terrorism, flatly declaring that before we found out that, in fact, it was not.
I think you just described, Howie, the telephone game that happens when media coverage is inaccurate. And so there's a couple of important things here. One, you've got to have an editorial team vetting sources. You've got to make sure that the word that you're hearing, who is the police source? Is it someone that's official? Is it unofficial? And is that source trustworthy? This process is critical before going to air because we know that the urgency and desire for information is almost proportional to the lack of vetting potentially. So this is where the editorial boards come in. And then second, when mistakes are made, you have to walk it back. You have to walk it back with editor's notes. You have to walk it back, not just the reporter saying something, but you also have to walk it back in public and just as loudly as you had the initial coverage. And I don't think that was done in this instance. And I think that leads to terrible things like conspiracy theories and elected leaders, being the mouthpiece of inaccurate information.
Right.
So I would hope in the future that happens.
Well, it was walked back, but maybe not with the same prominence as the earlier coverage. I'm not sure. But at the same time, sources are sometimes wrong. Even good police sources who may have been right in the past.